Today on History's Tech, we are going to be looking at a series of aircraft that are directly related to each other. And the first one we're going to look at is the Fairchild C-82 Packet. This unique twin-boom cargo aircraft was supposed to be the next generation of heavy lift cargo for the United States military. However, it never lived up to its reputation or even its legacy and would only be produced in small numbers before it would be replaced by its successor. But let's go ahead and look at the history and the design of the C-82 Packet. Now, the C-82 was designed to replace both of these aircraft, the Curtiss C-46 Commando and the Douglas C-47 Dakota. Both of these aircraft had absolutely wonderful careers that spanned even into the modern day, and they were well known with high reputations. But the reason there was a development for the C-82 was the fact that these aircraft were civilian aircraft that had been converted to cargo aircraft, so they were never initially designed for cargo. And secondly, they were using war-critical material when this design came about. So the idea was build an aircraft that could replace these aircraft, that could handle all the cargo needs possible, and not use critical war materials that would be utilized for fighter aircraft or bombers. Fairchild built this aircraft to be built out of plywood and steel, which were not as critical to combat aircraft. However, the aircraft would be quickly changed to an all-metal design. It would also incorporate a rear hatch that would be designed as a loading ramp with doors wide enough that a vehicle could be moved inside of it. The first prototype flew in September of 1944 and production began in 1945, with it ending in 1948 with only 223 aircraft produced. Now, almost immediately after the aircraft was produced, the aircraft was found to be underpowered. It was found that its airframe was inadequate for heavy lifting, the entire purpose it was built for. And as a result, the Army Air Force turned to Fairchild for a solution in its shortcomings. And they began a series of developments on the aircraft, trying to find more powerful engines, even testing small jet engines on it to get a boost of power. They saw their first deployment in June of 1945, and because of that, only a few of them entered service before the end of the war. In fact, they had a very low action rating. Most of them were used as cargo or transport, although a few did get to be deployed with paratrooper units or towing military gliders. However, due to their limited capabilities, they would only be utilized in limited service. The United States Postal Service actually explored the concept of utilizing them as mobile post offices, essentially performing the duties of a mail train where they could be sorted by clerks, put in bags, and then transferred to trucks once they landed. In 1948, a single C-82 was tested with a tracked gear landing system to allow it to land on unpaved and primitive runways. However, this proved to be unserviceable and the entire plan was abandoned. And that same year, a C-82 was deployed to the Arctic, allowing the United States to learn how to deploy troops in a cold weather environment. Now, one of the most important roles this aircraft served would be during the Berlin blockade, where 5 C-82 aircraft carried large disassembled earth-moving equipment into the city to enable the construction of the Berlin Tegel Airport. Now, because of its relatively short career, the fact that a replacement aircraft was pretty quickly built for it, the Air Force decided to go ahead and replace this C-82 and retire it in 1954. But that's not the end of its story, because it would actually be utilized by civilian operators in Brazil, Chile, Mexico, even the United States, where it was very popular with TWA Airlines, to be utilized mainly to send equipment and parts for their aircraft to other parts of the United States. Sadly, due to the limited number of aircraft flown, the airframes were eventually retired over the years, with the last flight of a C-82 coming in 2006. Now, there aren't too many variants built for the aircraft. Many of them are one-off versions. The tracked landing gear, for instance, was a one-off, even though they planned to build 13. The plans built for a North American aviation version of it, where they were supposed to build 1,000 of them, and that never came to fruition. The jet packet version, which had the jet pod on the top of it, there were 2 different versions of it. And then probably one of the most famous one is going to be the Stewart Davis Skytruck 1, which was an improved aircraft, had a hot air de-icing system in it, and it was basically famously used as inspiration for the Flight of the Phoenix movie. The 1965 movie, not the 2004, which utilized the legacy aircraft of the C-82. And speaking of legacy aircraft, the greatest legacy of the C-82 is its replacement aircraft, the Fairchild C-119 Flying Boxcar, my personal favorite cargo aircraft. And this was basically the C-82B, which was supposed to be the new, improved, more powerful engined version of the aircraft, but it ended up having a lot more improvements to the overall airframe that I'll go into next time. Now, currently, if you would like to see one of these beautiful aircraft, there are only 7 in existence currently, 2 in Brazil and 5 in the United States. None of these aircraft are currently in flying condition, and currently I have no reports of any of them being restored to flying condition at this time. And more than likely, that's just due to the low number of aircraft produced, that there's not a lot of parts available for the airframe. But there you have it, a quick look at the C-82 Packet, an aircraft that was designed to be the next generation of heavy lift aircraft, but never lived up to its legacy, and eventually would be replaced by an improved variant of it that would go on to be its own aircraft. But that's it for today. I thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you on the next time.